Welcome to Elite Pilates and Yoga Services. This particular video is on spinal mobility. It's a movement that I call the 3-in-1 movement, and it uses there's two orthopedic stroke physical therapy, chiropractic, physiotherapy type movements. One of those movements or type of movements is referred to as a Williams movement, and another is a McKenzie movement. In a nutshell, the Williams type movements are to do with forward flexion. Now that's just one pose. You can do other things where you're putting the spine or moving in forward flexion. The McKenzie is sort of the opposite. It's where you're putting the spine into extension, you sort of back bends. So it's more to do, focus more on the lumbar spine in the different movements that I can make in forward flexion and extension. So the 3-in-1 movement works on so many levels, but it basically mixes those two movements, the Williams and the McKenzie, so you get more bang for your buck. And what they used to do in the physiotherapy world, you got certain back issues, they might just give you McKenzie exercises, so extension type. If that didn't work, then they give you Williams one. And for me, that's what I love about Pilates. Pilates predates the Williams and McKenzie type moves by quite a number of years, I believe. Anyway, let's talk about the 3-in-1 movements and the other benefits, especially if you've got hip pain, lower back pain, sciatic type issues, peripheral syndrome, sacroiliac joint dysfunction, but just for loosening the hips up and the lower back up. There's various ways you can get into the movements. I prefer, when I'm teaching it, is we're in a quadruped position, tabletop position, 4-point kneeling position, whatever you want to call it. I'm not really fussed about the names. Is the spine in neutral? Have you got, in particular, the lumbar spine? Focus on this, is more on the lumbar spine. The lumbar spine is neutral, it's flatish. As a basic, the hands are underneath the shoulders, shoulder width apart. The knees underneath the hips, hip width apart. Most important part of that is your back flat, lower back flat. So your hands are slightly there because we can play around with hand positions and knee positions, make it a bit more challenging. If you've got wrist issues, you can do it on your knuckles, have your hands out to the side, because this is lifted a little bit, takes pressure off the wrists, because this can be quite challenging on the wrists if you're in this position for any length of time, and the heavier you are, the more you're feeling. So the biggest point of this is the lower back is flat. I like to have the hands slightly forward, keep them out there as much as you can, so sink down into a child pose. The biggest part of a child pose is, are your bum resting on your heels, and then can you get your forehead down to the ground, but not at the expense, so the forehead or the crown and head on the ground, but not at the expense of the bum lifting up. The important part of that, if you're able to, is can you get your bum on your heels? Keep the arms reached out. It's an important part from the fascia point of view, stretching off tissues. So the spine is in a slight forward flex position. It's a slight inversion, so the heart is higher than the head, so you get it's a bit of a relaxed position. In fact, it's called the rest pose and the child pose. But the spine is in a slight forward flex position. We then move back to the flat back, and then this is a bit where you need to be a little bit careful of. You send the pelvis forward, so start at the crown of the head, you bring the spine into extension, squeeze the bum and push the floor away, but squeezing the bum is the most important part, and then you just alternate between those three positions. So what can go wrong, what else can we focus on? The biggest thing is, from a safety point of view, is don't just fling the pelvis forward. It goes forward with control. It's like it's the last thing to go forward, squeeze the bum, keeps it safe. So by squeezing the bum, you're working your glute muscles. The muscles that we're trying to stretch off, as well as the hip flexor muscles. The more you can contract your bum, they work antagonistically. So if they're contracted, these are going to be relaxing, keeping it, they lengthen under tension, but basically you're stretching them off. As a basic, when you're in that swan position, the hands are underneath the shoulders. It doesn't really matter too much from a spinal point of view. I prefer putting the hands a little bit further down front when you're in that position. It works the shoulders more, the fascia more, you get more of the hip flexor stretch. This one, when the hands are closer in that position, it's more of a strength for the deltoid muscle. So if you have the shoulder strength particularly, that position is good. From a Pilates point of view, hands further out in front. Get more fascia, get more of a stretch, get more on the shoulders, not strength but more control. Anyway, the other part of it is that flat back here, it's a transition. You're going from a slight forward flexed, make sure that's flat. What most people do, they will tend to just dump the belly down like a cat-cow, like a cow part of it, and they'll keep it there as they go forward. That part, don't neglect it. Pause, make sure the lower back is flat before you go into extension, squeeze the bum. Now if you really push the floor away and keep the heart and head lifted, you're also working your chest muscles and your bicep muscles as well. And also your serratus anterior, major stabilizer of the shoulder joint. But the real reason I'm giving it for low back pain, sacroiliac, sciatic type issues, it's more what happens in the spine, so please don't overthink it. You're just mobilizing the spine between those three positions: flexed, neutral, spines in extension. And they can go quite dynamically, providing there's still control getting that pelvis forward. Don't just fling it forward, it's with control. So you can do it dynamically, or you can just hold each position for about 20 seconds from a stretch point of view, about 20 seconds. This one's just a neutral one, it's more of a transition, so I wouldn't necessarily hold that, just make sure the lower back is flat. And again, from a stretch point of view, hold that for about 20 seconds. Or you can play it from a Pilates point of view. We tend to use breath a lot. So from here, breathe in to prepare, you might breathe out. Breathe in, you might breathe out. Breathe in. So you're using breath to control the speed of the movement and how long you're in that position for. So that mixes two physiotherapy moves, what's used in the physiotherapy, physical therapy world, in relation to the spine, the McKenzie and the Williams. And I hope you enjoyed that, I hope you got something out of it. The wrists are starting to play up, I've been doing other stuff as well. Thanks for watching.